Dear NYPD, we here at AJ Plus know you're busy. You do have one of the biggest cities in the world to police, and you are reeling from the deaths of two of your own. But since crime is actually at record lows in New York City, not to mention New York State, and since the New York Post reported you're choosing not to police as much these days, we hope you'll have time for this one short message. You can turn your backs on New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio, but please don't turn your backs on the residents of your city or on everyone else in your country. Let's back up a little. Yes, this started with one officer's chokehold of Eric Garner, but it's about way more than one officer or even the entire NYPD. It's about more than Michael Brown, who was shot a few weeks later and 1,000 miles away from New York. It's even about more than the two non-indictments of the cops that killed them. It's about what people see as systemic racism, about how the system seems rigged against people of color, and it's about the huge role that the police play in this system. And there's a lot of history, not to mention even more evidence, to back that up. Like how from 2002 to 2011, your own officers stopped and searched people millions of times on the streets of New York, and a staggering 90% of the people you searched were Black or Latino. Out of all of the people you frisked, 88% of the time, 3.8 million stops, they were innocent. Does that sound fair? But again, this isn't just about you. Nationwide, Black Americans were almost 4 times as likely as whites to be arrested for marijuana possession in 2010, even though both groups used the drug at the same rate. Does that sound fair? And even though Blacks are just 12% of the total population of drug users in the US, they make up 59% of folks in state jails on drug offenses. Does that sound fair? Now, you're supposedly really upset with your mayor because in the aftermath of Eric Garner's death, he said this about his own biracial son.
With Dante, very early on, with my son, we said, look, if a police officer stops you, do everything he tells you to do. Don't move suddenly. Don't reach for your cell phone. Because we knew, sadly, there was a greater chance it might be misinterpreted if it was a young man of color.
But given some of these stats, why is that so crazy? If the President of the United States can say that Trayvon Martin could have been him 35 years ago, if the President himself says he's been followed in a department store for no apparent reason, then why can't the mayor say he's worried for his own son? And why can't we? The recent killings of NYPD officers Rafael, Ramos, and Wenjian are horrible and tragic, and our hearts go out to their families. Nobody wants to see police officers get shot. But the deranged man who killed the officers has nothing to do with Eric Garner and Michael Brown or the civil rights movements their deaths sparked, no matter what insane words he used to justify his actions. Now, we know not every officer turned their back on de Blasio in the hospital where the officers were taken or at Ramos' funeral. And we know not every officer booed him at a recent police graduation.
Congratulations, officers.
We know not every police officer is the same, and that people don't wake up in the morning with the intention to racially profile. Again, this is bigger than any one single officer. It's about the country, about the culture, and about whether people can trust those who are supposed to be protecting them. So, NYPD, please don't turn your back on New York City or the rest of your country. Most people just want what the Constitution guaranteed them a long, long time ago, but that still seems so out of reach. Equal treatment under the law.